don't really want to make this video. But I will. I've been trying to make the reviews, but then I had the qualifier, which I had to study all month for. I tried to shoot outside and get some volunteers, but then the blizzard just wiped all that shit out, and I'm pretty much backlogged until the snow goes away. Even my tripod's broken, which is why you got such a weird camera angle. It's on my bookshelf right now. Instead, I've been making this long video about the villains of Final Fantasy, which stay tuned for, because I really like it, even though it's pretty long. And I've been getting a lot of requests to share my thoughts about Versus XIII, which has not come out and will not come out until around 2012. I mean, I don't like idle speculation, and I don't like getting my hopes up for a game. I mean, the last time I got my hopes up for a game, it was Final Fantasy XII, and I was very disappointed. So what do I think about this game? I might rent it. Now, you have to understand what that means for me. I'm the Final Fantasy fanatic. I own every game. I own every version of every game. I played every game at least twice. Except for Final Fantasy XI. I had to play that at a friend's house. And Final Fantasy XIV, because I'm waiting till they fix it. And even then, I'm not sure I want to waste the money. But man, Square Enix's wonderful track record of the past 10 years has really made me not look forward to this game. I mean, I have to look at this from a perspective of all the other Final Fantasy games. So let me take you back a little to show you what I mean. I remember back when Final Fantasy IX came out. I couldn't wait to play that game. I saw the trailer for that game. I'm like, wow, this is gonna be a real fantasy world. I can't fucking wait. And I played it, and I liked it, but, you know, I wasn't too happy. 10 I liked, but for me, 10 is like that movie that you go and see, and you're like, wow, that was amazing. And then you go home, and you think about it, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. And then you play it again, and you like it less. Then you play it again, you still like it, but then you're like, nah. You know, you see all the plot holes, you see all the problems, but, you know, it's okay anyway. But it could have been so much better. And then, so, after that wonderful, marvelous masterpiece, you might remember that 12 was going to come out in 2004, but then they postponed it in 2005, and then they postponed it again. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for 12. And they were saying, it's going to be great, 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 it's all new, it's a whole new vision. They're going to change everything. It's not going to be as dumb as X2. The team that made Final Fantasy Tactics is going to do it. Now this game, it's beautiful, man. But then this sucks. Final Fantasy XII, I have a lot to say about Final Fantasy XII. If I was going to sum it up in one sentence, I would say I wouldn't recommend it. It's a game where they made it long, but it's artificially long, if you know what I mean. I mean, it's not long because there's a good story and there's complex characters and there are things happening. It's long because they put about 50,000 missions in it. They had dungeons where the designers used cut, copy, and paste everywhere. And they just made it so that the game takes like 8 years to play. And the payoff is worthless. And their plan was, you know, we're going to make a game And we're going to give it a sort of cliffhanger ending so we can have spin-offs. And so we're going to have Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings. And we're going to have Final Fantasy Tactics A2, Grimoire of the Rift. What the fuck kind of title is that? Did I play these games? I didn't buy them. Okay, I played them, but I didn't buy them. Wink, wink. I wouldn't buy them. They weren't good. They sucked. In fact, one of the reasons Grimoire of the Rift really pissed me off was the judges. This game didn't have judges. 50 times better than that piece of crap. And I didn't have to play as Vaughn. Case closed. So, it's 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. We're told they're making Final Fantasy XIII, Final Fantasy XIII, Final Fantasy XIII. Oh my god. They try to pull the same crap again, right? Bunch of sequels. There's gonna be a sequel, spin-off, a whole world called Fabula Nova Crystallis. I didn't care when this game came out. I put it off. I'm like, it's gonna be good, maybe, maybe not. I'm not seeing much. I'm seeing a world that looks just like Final Fantasy X, but they cleaned it up a little bit. A bunch of characters that look good, but is there gonna be a story at all? And then it came out. God damn. There's 3 problems with this game, really. Idiot director, idiot writer, and the Xbox 360. I'll go more in-depth into this later, and in the other video I'm making. But the fact is, you got the wrong people making Final Fantasy. In the good old days, we had a team. That team was Sakaguchi, Yoshinori Kitase, Tetsuya Nomura, Yoshitaka Amano, Nobuo Uematsu, and the writer Kazuchika Najima. That's the team. They started to disappear in Final Fantasy X, and they were gone in X2. They did not return here. Instead, we have the idiot director, Motomu Toriyama, and a hack writer, Daisuke Watanabe. So, you couldn't expect much. And why did the Xbox ruin Final Fantasy XIII? Well, the fact is, when you make a big game with amazing, huge graphics that good require a lot of space. Now, a Blu-ray disc has that space, but DVDs don't. You know, if you try to go back into another town, you're going to be changing discs like 900 times. And it's just too annoying. So when you port the Final Fantasy XIII to the Xbox 360, you got to make sure that all the information is on the specific discs. And when you do that, you can't really move around that much. It demands a linear game. Disc 1 can only have the first half of the game. Disc 2 can only have the second half of the game. And so on and so forth. So you can't move around that much. So the game is almost mandated from the start to be a straight line in a tube. And that didn't help. Furthermore, when you realize that these games are taking so long to make for only 2 reasons. 1, the production team is being shifted around like crazy because they're just trying to finish the game and they don't really have a cohesive sense of a story and an idea they want to do. Like in Final Fantasy XII. They just added characters for like demographic reasons. That's why Vaughn's even in the game. Or, they're updating the graphics constantly. Which is why Final Fantasy XIII took forever. And why Versus XIII is taking forever. Now, Versus XIII. Originally, I thought Versus XIII was going to be the sequel to Final Fantasy XIII. They've been giving us so much information, it was very easy to be confused like that. But instead, I find out that not only are they making Final Fantasy XIII, they're making a 13-2 with the same guys that made 13. Now, if you idiots at Square Enix actually think I'm going to play that game, you're fucking out of your minds. Okay, why the hell would I want to play a sequel to Final Fantasy XIII? You know, I can't believe they did it again. They just tacked on a 2 at the end. You idiots. Can't you say part 2? I could have swore I thought this was going to happen. That they were just going to, like, make a sequel and like put a 2 on it. I can't believe it. Why does there have to be a part 2? We loved the first one so much that, you know, we gotta see the sequel. We gotta know how it turns out. Vanille and Lightning were such amazing characters. I can't wait to see what happens to them. You can't be serious. And there's gonna be a mysterious man in it who starts off the story. Kinda like Shuyin. Is his name going to be Yinshu? Do you have any original ideas at all? I can't believe. What are they doing? I fear for their sanity. I really do. I mean, what can you say? You see, the only reason I bought this was because Final Fantasy X was good. It was interesting. A lot of potholes in there. But you know what? It was a real fantasy game. You know what I mean? It took me somewhere. From the start, I didn't think Final Fantasy X needed a sequel. It was fine the way it was. But I said, you know what? If the same guys are there, they'll do a good job. And this fucking thing is shit. So, arguably, X2 had a better battle system. But I wouldn't say that. Bear with me, I'm leading up to something. X2's battle system I would call lazy. It's a great idea that you can change jobs in mid-battle, but they never use it. It's a great idea that you introduce a platforming element into the game, but you don't really do anything with it. It's not like a Crash Bandicoot game or a Mario game, you know, when you actually jump around. It's like you walk up to a hole, you press X, and then the unit jumps. That's no different from anything you ever did in any other 3D Final Fantasy game. It was completely pointless. You had the whole chain idea, but you didn't do anything with it. It means nothing. It just happens. They go, they just fight and go, flat, and they're there, and you know they hit at the same time. It means nothing. And you can change jobs, but I guarantee you, everyone, all of you, were either warriors, dark knights, or a combination of that and a white mage. There was no reason to change jobs in that game. And there was no reason to play that game. Now, Versus 13, a lot of hype's been surrounding it. The last time a lot of hype surrounded a game, I was really excited and then I was incredibly disappointed. For this game, I don't care. I really don't care. 13 was such a disappointment to me. And, you know, it's another game where they're trying to build sequels into it. I don't care. I prefer complete stories. I want the real thing. I've been hearing, it's going to have a battle system like Kingdom Hearts. I don't care. If I wanted a battle system like Kingdom Hearts, I'd play Kingdom Hearts. And you know, I didn't really like the battle system of Kingdom Hearts. It wasn't Final Fantasy. Why can't they just do this? I like that! Bring it back, please. Personally, I don't want this game to be too inspired by Kingdom Hearts. I really don't. I'm only insulted about Kingdom Hearts. I don't care how much fun the game was. I was just insulted. I can't describe it any other way. Why is Donald Duck in this game? Why is Disney in this game? What is this story? I mean, what is this? Why did you do this? That's all I was thinking about Kingdom Hearts. That's it. And then they tried to make it better. You know, they tried to make this complete bullshit story deeper in Kingdom Hearts 2. Why? They say they want the action to kind of look like Advent Children. I hated Advent Children. I'll explain why later on. But let's just think about the battles in there. I found them completely boring. Same two guys going... That was it. I don't care. I hear the game is dark. I like dark games. When I say the word dark, I mean a story that deals with themes and characters that actually mean something and is relevant to us. It hits home with a real resonance. It will play with themes and characters. It will be controversial. It will do this without trying to be, oh, we're being edgy. It will have dark humor. It will have serious situations. Characters will really be put under the test. When they say dark, they mean characters that walk around like this, and they talk, and they're wearing all black, and they're wearing all red. That's not dark. It's shit. We already had a dark Final Fantasy game. It was called Dirge of Cerberus. It sucked. I don't know what to expect from this game. First they said it was like 200 years in the future of Final Fantasy XIII. And now it's like, oh, it's in a different real world, almost like the real world. I'm like, it has nothing to do with Final Fantasy XIII. So why is it called Versus XIII? If it has nothing to do with the game, why? What the hell kind of name is Versus? It's as stupid as Advent Children. It's the same guy who did that. Nomura did that. He seems to think that because there are children in the movie, and there's like a religious Advent situation in the movie, that you can put those two words together and it will make sense. You can't do that in English, dude. You might be able to do that in kanji. You can't do that in English. Doesn't make any sense. But I think I figured out what the verses means. You got Final Fantasy XIII, right? And then they got Versus XIII. You know, the game that 13 should have been against this piece of shit. I am damn sure, no matter what the hell happens in this game, that Versus 13 is going to be infinitely better than 13-2 because of the people who are working on it. 13-2 has Matoma Toriyama and the team who made Final Fantasy 13. You suck. Versus 13 has my team. Yoshinori Kitaze's there. He's the producer. Let's just hope he actually does something this time. Who's writing it? Kazushige Najima. I've missed you, man. I've missed you. Problem with Najima is, though, that if he writes alone, it's not going to be good. You see, Najima has all these amazing ideas, but he can't string them together in a plot that's flawless. The games he wrote with somebody, Final Fantasy VII, great plots. The games he wrote alone, Final Fantasy VIII, not great plots. This game he's writing alone, so I'm not holding out much hope for the plot here. It's rated M. Thank you! Thank you! I don't need this stupid retarded bullshit again! Thank you! If it's rated M, that means you can actually do something. Okay? Don't disappoint me. Don't just make it rated M because you wanted to put blood in it. Please, God, do something with this. This is something the Final Fantasy creators haven't understood. They got fans like me when we were 10. We've grown up. We've gotten smarter than this. You can't give us the shitty, stupid plot hole filled plots anymore. You gotta be smarter than that. You gotta hit us where it hurts. You gotta make a plot that works. You gotta make us do something. If you make it rated M, you have a chance. You actually have to use the damn chance. Versus 13 has a world map. It has airships. Thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you. It's about fucking time. I just want the illusion of choice. Please. I'm tired of going in a tube, man. That sucked. Give me the world map. Let me explore. Let me move around. Let me look around, please. It's a fantasy. Let me see it. Who's doing the art? Yoshitaka Amano. Okay, that's good. Who's doing music? Yoko Shimomura. Nah. I mean, she's okay. It's set in the real world, or something close to the real world. This has happened before. It was called Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. That movie was a financial failure. We all know that. What I think of that movie, it was completely unremarkable. I mean, why was it called the Final Fantasy movie? It wasn't a fantasy. It was like it was a run-of-the-mill sci-fi movie. There was no need for it to be in fully CGI, and actors could have done that. I mean, there's a guy named Sid in it, but you know, after that, I've seen that movie once. I watched it. I went, that's it. No, you don't travel anywhere. There's no magic. A lot of people seem to think, oh, there's no cloud in it. That's why it sucks. That's not why it sucks. It sucks because it's boring. It sucks because its characters are cliche, you know? Because in Final Fantasy, we expect a story to evolve for something that's longer than 2 hours. We expect a little more than that. I expected something like, I don't know, The Lord of the Rings when I saw that movie. I wanted maybe like crystals. I wanted an airship in it. Maybe. I got this really weird love story between some lady and Alec Baldwin. I mean, why? Versus 13 has the potential to underwhelm me as much as Spirits Within did, but I don't know. Who's directing it? Nomura. Nomura's directing it, huh? How much black leather, hair gel, and hair dye is in this game? Well, it could have been a lot worse. Nomura has said, I try not to redefine what a Final Fantasy game could be. That's a sentiment I wholeheartedly support. But I just wish that I had more faith that he wouldn't fuck them up. So you see, Versus 13 is tempting me. It's tempting me. It really is. But then the downsides. They've been spending 10 years on this. Why? Because of the graphics. When are you Final Fantasy guys going to understand? I don't care about the graphics. I don't care! When you were making games with really shitty graphics, you made them quickly. You had to spend more time on the stories because they had to be good. And they were better. If you ask me, Final Fantasy VIII and maybe Final Fantasy IX is the best graphics Final Fantasy game should have been. It was good. That's good enough. It was good enough. I saw everything. It was worked smoothly. It worked great. When you stick with that, then you can just work on the story. And I want a better story in Final Fantasy than I've been getting recently. When you spend so much time on these new innovative graphics, you have to spend 9 years on the graphics. And you can't revise the story. What happens is, you're locked into this story. And you can't really change it. Because once you got the story, you have to get all these computer animators to make the stories and make all the FMVs. And it takes years and years and years to make the code. And you got to make it in this one way. You know? So it's actually efficient. If you change one thing, you like wasted months. You got to redo everything. And you wasted millions of dollars. You can't do that all the time. You might be able to change a line of dialogue here, voice acting there. But you can't really change the plot around. You can't really mess around with it. Not like in the old days when, you know, moving a town around or moving a character around would just be a matter of like Control X, Control V. But this stuff with this, you know, with this what is it called, the crystal tools, all this stuff, it's so much work that once you got the story, you can't fix it. And if it sucks and nobody checks it, then you're screwed. Nomura has been spending so much time updating the graphics like crazy. I'm not convinced it's a good story. It's that same incredibly stupid attitude. You know, if the graphics aren't good enough, the game's gonna suck. No, it isn't! He's working so hard on the graphics. Why hasn't he said anything about what the story is? I've seen pictures of characters and trucks. I've seen a gas station. Looks pretty good. But what's the game? What the hell is the game? You know, I hope it's good. I really do. I want Final Fantasy to be good again. I don't want to waste another $60 on a piece of shit. Which is why I'm renting it. There's not much more I can say. I mean, I'm waiting just as much as you are. But I'm not anticipating it that much. If it's good, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I guess that's all I have to say about it. Stay tuned for my series on the bad guys of Final Fantasy.